So now I'm going to install Anaconda. So I'm going to open a web browser. I'm going to do this in Google Chrome, but you can do it in your favorite browser, whatever it is. I'm going to type in anaconda.com, or you can do a Google search on Anaconda. I'm going to choose products, and I'm going to choose individual edition. Now I'm going to go to download, and it's going to take me down to the bottom. I have a Windows computer, so I'm going to want to choose 64-bit graphical installer. Most newest Windows computers are 64-bit. If you have a Mac, you have a choice between the graphical installer and the command line installer. You want to choose the graphical installer. Okay, so in Windows, they're both graphical. You want the 64-bit most likely. So I'm going to click on that. And I am going to navigate to my downloads folder. Right here, I'm going to choose save. It may just go automatically into your downloads folder. If I click on this little arrow, it'll click on show in folder. And then this is what I want. Okay. So this looks like Anaconda 2020-07. That's the one I want. You'll see I have an old version there that I forgot to delete. So I'm going to double click on this. Okay, so you're going to start seeing a little pop-up box that walks you through what to do. I'm going to choose next. I'm going to see all this, read it if you like. I'm going to trust it and just agree to it. I agree. I'm going to choose just me. Then next. The default here is probably exactly what you want. So I'm going to choose next. Don't choose this add to path. You don't want to do that. Just choose this other checkbox that's defaulted. And then I'm going to click on install. And you're going to see this little scrolling green bar. If you want, you can click on show details. It'll install a whole bunch of stuff. It may take a few minutes. It's a large program. Okay, so eventually you should see this. I did pause my recorder during parts of mine. So mine actually, if yours took a long time, then mine took a long time, also longer than what you see on the video. And so now we get this. I'm going to choose next. I'm going to choose next again. I am going to skip the tutorial and I'm going to skip learning more about Anaconda. I'm just going to learn by doing, and I'm going to choose finish. Okay, so now to see if this worked properly, let's just try to run the program. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come down to my start menu. You could do a couple of things. I'm going to go to, if I go to Anaconda and I click this little arrow, I can choose, most of the time I'm going to be using the Jupyter Notebook, which is, that's the program we're going to be using in our class that you're going to use the most often. You can also choose a kind of a higher level program called Anaconda Navigator, and from here you can actually launch the Jupyter Notebook. So you'll see this little circular green snake logo. That's the Anaconda logo. It'll take a little while to load up. It's a big program. And so I'm going to skip improving Anaconda. I'm going to uncheck this little box. There it goes. It finally let me, and I'm going to tell it not to ask me for help improving Anaconda again. Okay, and then from here, to launch the Jupyter Notebook, you're going to choose Launch right here. And this is going to open in your default browser. My default browser is Opera. And so from here, I can choose a file, and this is a file that I happen to have for my class. Let's choose this very basic intro file. And so we can come here, and this is what it's supposed to look like. And then you go through and you start running your cells by choosing Run. And we can have more about that later, but this is how it's supposed to look. Notice whenever you have one of these programs, there's going to be a cell near the beginning that has a lot of import statements. You're going to have to run these first, those two cells right there, in order to make the rest of the file work. Let me just go ahead and do one or two here, and I'll let you work through the rest on your own. So here's one where Python is getting used by a calculator. It's giving me 11 times 3 is 33. So right here you can see my file got a little hung up because I'm clicking on the 11 times 3 and telling it to run, but I'm not getting any output. If you look at the very top tab, you'll see I have a little hourglass next to the very basic intro at the very top on my browser tab. And it's not supposed to look like an hourglass like that. That means it got hung up somehow. It's supposed to look like a book. And I think that's probably because I started it up before everything got fully installed after installing a new version of the program. I'm getting a few random package installation things. I'm just going to choose install on these if you get any of these. This may be because I installed this and I had a previous version installed earlier. So this one took a little while to completely load up, probably because it's the first time I installed and ran this program. So you should see a little book type thing up here. If you see an hourglass, that means something's kind of stuck or not updated yet. So now I'm going to run each of these cells. I'm going to for sure run these import ones at the beginning. You have to do that every time you open the file. It imports the packages that you need. Otherwise, your program won't work. And it's sort of like trying to press the accelerator on a car when you haven't turned on the engine yet. You're not going to get very far. Okay, so here Python can be used like a calculator. So 11 times 3, I should get 33. Let's see what happens. I got 33. So let me just pop in here and change this to 11 times 5. And now I'm going to run it again. And it worked. If I want to add a cell, I can click on this little plus, and then I can type something else in here. If I do 5 minus 3 times 4, which should give me 5 minus 12. This should give me minus 7, right? There you go. So that's how you get installed and started with your Anaconda Jupyter Notebook.